Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Naomi. I'm the events coordinator from the Palm House, and I also teach the life drawing, which usually happens on a Tuesday night. Before I do a quick drawing video explaining some tips for you for drawing a portrait or a face, I'm just going to let you know that we've got our first ever online Zoom life drawing happening. So that's going to be on Tuesday the 19th of May between 7 and 9. So if you'd like to get involved in that, we've got a really good model. She's called Eve and she'll be posing for us. The birth theme, I can announce, is burlesque, so very excited about that. If you want to get involved, you just go onto our Facebook event, which is online life drawing theme burlesque. And just register your interest. We do recommend that you do make a donation as it helps us keep these classes going. But if you can't, we understand. Every little helps. So yeah, please register your interest for that. Or in fact, if you've enjoyed any other part of our online programme, do let us know. And I'll get into the tips for drawing. So there are lots of ways of initially structuring your face before fleshing it out and drawing over the top of it. So I'm going to show you a few different examples of a basic structure for the base of the drawing before we go into some of the features, like we'll go over eyes, nose and mouth, and hopefully that'll help you accomplish more in your drawing. So this is the most commonly used sort of structure for drawing a face, and for good reason. So I've exaggerated this for you because you can't really see the pencil overly well on the camera, so this has been exaggerated with charcoal. But firstly, you would draw this circle and then split it in a line horizontally, just in half, and then vertically. You want to lean into the top lid of the eye there because that helps, as the eyelid of the top would usually be heavier anyway. So I will say that you want to draw very, very, very lightly, so not like this, because this is just, you want to get your proportions right before you sort of lean into shading, lean into different heavier lines, or even take out some lines. So the rubber can be quite useful if for example the light is falling this way and there's actually, when you're looking at it, you can see the light sort of bouncing off the forehead, so this line might not actually exist at all, so you might need to actually take that out altogether. But usually, so you draw this first two cross, which would be half horizontally and half right down the middle vertically, and this chin might not actually be this shape. So this, sort of line here would be where you're sort of changing the shape of the jaw, because there's many different shapes of jaws. So you'd have like a sweetheart, or a heart-shaped face, or like a square jaw. So that's worth bearing in mind as well. This is quite generic. It's meant as a guide to sort of a starting off point, and it's really important to take your time and draw lightly and shading, and just bear in mind that shading comes later, and really look at what you're drawing because every face is different. So for a general guide, you would have the nose halfway down between that line and the bottom of the chin, and then your mouth would be halfway between again. So you would just draw like a light line so that'll like guide you later on. And as a general rule, the ear would be between the eyelid and the nose, so that's a good guide as well. But we'll look at some other ways that you can draw this out as well if this one doesn't suit. Okay, so it's about finding out what works best for you, I guess. I quite like this technique. So this is good if you find yourself you maybe are quite heavy on your hands. I find it hard to do that like one swooping line, or particularly if the person has a more unusual shaped jawline, and this can be quite easy to get it right from the offset. It depends how light you are with your pencil, or heavy-handed you are with your pencil. We do actually do a exercise in my life drawing classes where we work on that, so you can sort of get a better idea of where you sort of fall in that spectrum. So I'm quite light-handed, so this is quite handy for me because even when I've built up a drawing even further, you can still sort of see that initial line. And I don't actually like to use a rubber, try not to use a rubber unless I'm completely vanishing a line, so I quite like to get my proportion quite good from the beginning, even if it's light. So I quite like this technique because you can kind of draw, it's easier to draw a circle rather than that shape, because it's harder to adjust that line. But I mean, again, this just works the same way, so you still just draw a line straight down the middle and straight across, and then your nose usually falls to the bottom of the circle, and then halfway between the bottom of the chin and the bottom of that circle. So, and then your eyes would still go in the same place where the horizontal line would go. So again, you can use we've got another one here. You can do different techniques. So you can do this technique where you draw 2 circles. So with this can be quite good if you're dealing with someone who has quite unusual proportions between their chin and their forehead, so you can sort of play with that. Or I find it easier to adjust the sort of face that I'm drawing if I use this technique. So if you've got someone who's got a sort of larger forehead, or even if it can be about angles as well. So if the person's head's tilted forward and you need to break it up into different kind of shapes, I find this quite an easy method. So for this one, you would put the eyes generally at the top of the bottom circle, and then the nose at the bottom of that circle, and then again somewhere between the bottom of that circle and the bottom of that circle would be the mouth. So for this, it's quite good, as you can see, for like elongated faces, so you can kind of make those circles a bit longer, so that can work really well for that. So those are the 3 sort of basic structures I would use for the face, and now I'm going to show you some of the individual features. So yeah, just work on, it's good to find out what works for you, and try a few different things. So you can really play around with this technique, so I'd encourage you to do that as well. Now I'm just going to look at some of the features of the face as well, so we're going to just quickly look at the nose and the eye and the mouth, and I'll tell you what not to do as well as what to do. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the eyes, and as you can see, we've got a very flat 2D image here of what a sort of outline of an eye. This is what not to do. Do not do this. So the reason this doesn't work is because the outline of this eye is all one weight of pencil, just a flat 2D object. It doesn't look 3D at all. And the eyelashes are sort of too evenly spaced, so that just gives no definition. There's no individuality. So although I talk about the generic sort of like structure of these features, I think it really needs it. That all comes with shading and practice, and you know this is what you don't want to do. And what you do want to do is a little bit more like this. So for example, this is a bit more accurate, as we've got like a heavier, normally the top eyelid would be heavier, as you can see here. I've overlapped the eyelashes and crossed them over, clumped them irregularly. That can help as well. So you're keeping this like bottom bit a bit light. This white bit as well is never completely white, so you want to like use your shading and fill in that a little bit at the sides. You want to be conscious of your light source, so a good way of doing the eye is to first, get your light source in there, and then depending on the colour of the eye, you want to shade it in and then add definition, build it up slowly. So you start with like a sort of soft, like here we've recognised that there would be, some sort of lines or definition in the colour of the iris, but you want to just sort of softly build up that definition, maybe even more so than I have here. This is just a quick illustration for you to see the difference. So yeah, that's the eye. So moving over to what not to do with the nose. So here's a sort of 2D flat representation of a nose. This is what you don't want to do. So it's all about making it look as 3D as possible, shading. So this is quite a good technique of drawing this sort of like box where the nose goes, and then you can kind of build it up into a shape, and then shade the shading, make sure you've got that arch in. And it's important to remember as well that it's all about the features work, and you can start to build them up, but it's all about measuring in relation to some other objects. So this would be technically where the sort of eyebrow would be. So you can use your pencil to measure these things. So you take the top bit of your pencil and measure with your thumb and look at your object. And so if you can see the tip of your pencil, that represents sort of one tip of your pencil, and actually it's worth 2 of those, so in relation to your eyebrow, which is meant to be 2 as well. So you should see that they should be, roughly the same size. So that can be quite good. So half of the battle is really, looking. So I really do emphasise that you take your time and just look and just build it up. Start lightly, build it up, add in definition, add in heavier lines, and that should really improve your drawing. So we'll look at the mouth. So again, this is what you don't want to do. Just a basic outline of the mouth. What you do want to do is start with a line in the middle, and when you've drawn out your overall face, you start with a line just straight across, and then you can start to add in the weight of where the shadow falls. So always being conscious of your light source, always knowing where that is. and just marking out the heavier lines and building it up. And as I said, you can take lines out as well, depending on where the light falls. So I hope those tips have been helpful for you. So I just want to say thanks everyone for watching. I'm really appreciating everyone's interactivity in our programme. And so if you do enjoy anything, just please do make a donation. There's a link on our Facebook page right at the top, or within the life drawing, if you're going to come to that, in the ticket link there is a link directly to the donation page as well. So we do suggest a donation of £4, but you know, whatever you can. If you can't at all, that's okay. But yeah, so please come along to Life Drawing Online Zoom on the 19th of May, Tuesday, 7 till 9 Eve. We're going to do a burlesque theme. It's going to be great. Thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Let us know your results and hope it goes well. Thank you.